Hello everyone, welcome and well met. Thank you for joining me here back for, I guess, part 2 for the Rising event. So this is also a special, I guess, extra quest that we can do in honor of our 10th anniversary. It's called Remembering the Past. It's just outside the main aetheryte here in the desert. And we speak with this Lalafell to apparently learn a lot more about Louisoix. The determined set of your jaw, the dynamic presence, as if you're ever ready to leap into action. There's no mistake, you're an adventurer, and a dependable one at that. Tell me, are you familiar with the name Louisoix Levier? Oh, buddy, you have no idea. Of course you are, of course you are. Forgive me my suddenness, I'm Nanaja Nonoja, a budding writer, and I seek to pen a biography of the great man. In particular, I wish to cover his movements leading up to the calamity, and to that end I requested an interview with the Immortal Flames. He served the Eorzean Alliance as a tactician, you see, so there ought to be someone in the Order who had dealings with him. And while my request has thankfully been accepted, there's just one problem. I don't have much experience conducting interviews, and I'm worried whether I'll be able to do a proper job. As an adventurer, you're doubtless used to dealing with people, thus I would like to ask you to accompany me in the capacity of an assistant. It would be tremendously reassuring to simply have you watching on. And if you're amenable, afterwards I'd like to interview you as well for your own impressions. For your troubles, I'll be certain to credit you as a collaborator. So please, won't you help me with my biography, that the memories of the calamity might be preserved for future generations? I'm in your debt. To begin with, please come with me to Camp Drybone in Eastern Thanalan. There's a place I'd like to visit ahead of the interview. Okay, so apparently you had to complete a Realm Reborn up to defeating the Ultima weapon to be able to accept this particular quest. So, interesting that they would do that way. And I'm pretty sure you don't have to complete the Binding Coils of Bahamut before accepting this quest either. But boy, like, we know the man, we really do, and oh, just great, it's raining. Oh well. There you are, to explain why we're here. Oh, but I haven't even asked your name. How am I supposed to credit you if I don't even know that much? Claire Fay, the Claire Fay, champion of Eorzea? Small wonder I felt you were dependable. With one such as you helping me, everything will surely go well. But getting back to business, the interview I've arranged is with an officer of the Immortal Flames. And there's still time, however. As there's still time, however, I thought that we pay a visit to the nearby graveyard first, so I can explain my motivation for the biography. I come from a small village near the Cardinal Flats. It was burned down in the calamity, and those who died were laid to rest here, my parents among them. It's hardly an uncommon tale. After the dread primal emerged from Dalamud, he unleashed fiery devastation across the length and breadth of Eorzea. As much as the calamity has scarred the realm, it is quickly becoming just another event in the history books. Beyond occasionally giving thanks to the Archons that Eorzea was saved, people spare it little thought. But when you've lost so many loved ones, it's hard to feel that anything was saved. That's why I wish to know more about Louisoix. By learning about his part in Eorzea's salvation, I hope that I will attain closure. That's my motivation for writing the biography. Now then, in preparation for the interview, let's review what is known about our subject. It's difficult to define exactly when the Seventh Umbral Calamity was set in motion. Many historians, however, point to the Empire's Meteor Project, which sought to bring Dalamud down upon Eorzea. It was the year 1562 of the Sixth Astral Era. Seeking to combat the Imperial threats, Louisoix founded the Circle of Knowing, an order whose objective was the preservation of Eorzea. Through its members, the Archons of Sharlayan, the Circle worked to unite the nations of Eorzea in common cause. The result was the formation of the Grand Companies in the three city-states: the Immortal Flames, the Order of the Twin Adder, and the Maelstrom. None of these would exist now were it not for their efforts. And then in the year 1572, when the situation was coming to a head, Louisoix himself made the journey to Eorzea in secret and engaged with each of the nations. What took place during that time is what I seek to learn in the interview. The man we're due to meet is the contact for the Free Brigade, a unit formed of adventurers, and he apparently had Louisoix's assistance for a mission. The meeting place is Highbridge, to the northeast. It's more or less time now, so let's make our way there. You know, I never played 1.0, but I really wish I had. I wasn't nearly into video games as I am now, but man, I really, really wish that I could have. Okay, so let's use the Phoenix for this particular quest. I think it's very appropriate. You know, if you really want to know more about Louisoix's life, especially leading up before the events of coming to Eorzea, we can introduce you to his grandchildren. I'm sure they would be more than happy to talk about him. So, who is this person? Is it someone you know? No, I guess not. I don't recognize him anyway. You'll be the ones who seek an interview? I must say I wasn't expecting to see the champion of Eorzea. I'm Nanaji Nonoji, the writer who made the request. Sinclair has kindly accompanied me for the interview. I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedule to humor me. Come now, no need for the thanks. Like everyone, I hold Louisoix in the highest esteem. If you wish to know more about him, Hologen Aubrey is always glad to oblige. Without further ado then, let us begin. My understanding is that you had dealings with Louisoix. Could you please tell me the details? As you know, our grand companies were formed thanks to the Circle of Knowing, but it wasn't until Dalamud began turning red that Louisoix first appeared. It began with the word that an elderly Elysian man had come to Gridania who held the key to vanquishing primals. Upon learning of this, I sent an adventurer of the Free Brigade to make contact with them. I later learned that the Maelstrom and the Order of the Twin Adder had done the very same. At that time, our companies weren't yet collaborating. Each one only thought to stay ahead of the others. If truth be told, at first we didn't think much of Louisoix, only that he was a leader of scholars who studied particular prophecies. But when the adventurer reported back, our opinion of the man completely changed. With his spellcraft, Louisoix had opened the way into Ifrit's domain, and by the hand of dauntless adventurers, the Lord of the Inferno was brought low. Alas, many defeats preceded that victory. It was reported that countless charred corpses lay strewn in the bowl of embers. Now, the mission also yielded a shocking revelation. Following the battle, Legatus Nail Van Darnus of the 7th Imperial Legion appeared and told the adventurer that the hour of reckoning was at hand, that Dalamud would soon fall and cleanse the land. That was when we realized that the Empire was behind the Red Moon's anomaly. So thanks to Louisoix, you came to be aware of the meteor project. Still, it doesn't seem like you had much to act upon. As you say, afterwards we scrambled to learn all we could about the project. For a blessing, we had the cooperation of a Garlean defector, Sid Garland, whom you know well. He revealed the details of the project, that it utilized a transmission tower to pluck Dalamud from the heavens, all for the purpose of purging us savages from the realm. I could continue telling you what I know, but from this point on there is someone better suited than I am. If you are interested, I would be glad to introduce you to this individual. What say you? Well now, we'll be keen to speak with this person indeed. Very well. I will send word to the Adder's Nest. If you could take yourselves to Apkalu Falls, I will arrange for a meeting there. To go to such lengths to help us. I can't say how grateful I am. Do not mention it. As I said, I hold Louisoix in the highest esteem. He was the one who brought our three nations together, and nothing would please me more than for him to be remembered. Well, it's past time I return to Udal. I pray that the coming interview bears you fruit. The lieutenant certainly has great respect for Louisoix. Thanks to him, we have another promising interview. Come, let's head to Gridania, where the Archon has sojourned. Man, this is like a flash from the past. Even though I haven't played 1.0, I know about the storyline there. I've seen like the cutscenes online. And I remember those cutscenes that they mentioned, which I think is really cool. But you know, I really think that we should introduce him to the twins. Or at the very least, Fortuno. I mean, I'm sure that they would be more than happy to go into a lot of details about Louisoix's life, especially before coming to Eorzea. If it is to be a biography, you'd think that they would cover those basics at least. Anyway, let's go and see who the next person is. Been a while since I've been to Gridania. So long, in fact, I think I've almost forgotten my way around here. Despite me having a house here in Gridania, I really don't come too often except to visit my own house. You know, that should be my next video. I should give like a tour of my place. That would be nice. So this is Apkalu Falls. The conspicuous lack of the creatures aside, it's quite a beautiful place. Now then, the person we're to meet should be along shortly. I was told there will be those who wish to learn about Louisoix, and who should one of them be but the champion of Eorzea? Well met, I am Lieutenant Soro Fluthi, of the Order of the Twin Adder. Nanaji Nonoji, at your service. Thank you for sparing the time to speak with us. Think nothing of it. I must say, though, that Lieutenant Aubrey chose the perfect spot for the subject matter. All right, he did, didn't he? Louisoix spent much time in rumination here in the days before the calamity. We Gridanians being somewhat reserved by nature, at first the citizens kept their distance. But in time, people warmed to him. He patiently lent an ear to their troubles, healing hurts and offering counsel, and gradually earned their trust. To ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. Louisoix spoke those words and lived up to them. He was the epitome of a Charlean sage, and I recall myself being moved. Now, shortly after we had become aware of the Meteor Project, the hamlet of Quarrymill was attacked by the primal Garuda. Both soldiers and civilians were among the casualties. The Order of the Twin Adder moved to vanquish the primal, but we were not alone. Through Louisoix's mediation, we had the support of not only our sister Grand Companies, but capable adventurers the realm over besides. Using an artifact known as the Vortex Feather, the Archon opened the way for a band of adventurers to sally forth into Garuda's turbulent domain, where they felled the fearsome being. Upon her defeat, however, the primal's dispersed ether did not return to the land. Instead, it was absorbed into the red moon, Dalamud. When the Empire constructed a new base in Mordona, the Elder Seatseer saw the need for decisive action and put forth a proposal, the formal reformation of the Eorzean Alliance, which had for so long laid dormant. The initial response from the other nations was lukewarm at best. They felt that the burden to be borne by each party was excessive, and they were loath to do aught that would place them at a disadvantage against their rivals. But the revelation that a lunar transmitter had been erected in the Imperial base prompted a change of hearts. The tower controlled Bahamut's descent. If it could be destroyed, then the Meteor Project would be forestalled. After having constantly been on the back foot, our nations were motivated to join hands, that we might strike a decisive blow against the enemy. Thus was the Eorzean Alliance reformed, as the Circle of Knowing had hoped. At the same juncture, Louisoix was asked to join the Alliance as a tactician, and in that capacity he provided sage counsel to the heads of state. So although he was at first treated with wariness, Louisoix earned our trust through his actions, and paved the way to enduring cooperation between our nations. Indeed, were it not for him, we would all have perished divided. We owe Louisoix a great debt. Now then, I expect you might be interested in hearing about the operation to destroy the lunar transmitter. But for that tale, I would recommend you seek out another, a decorated soldier who actually took part in the operation. Although a hardened warrior, she is quite friendly and should be glad to regale you with her experiences. Shall I send her word on your behalf? We'd be duly grateful. Very well. If you could take yourselves to the Maelstrom Command in Limsa Lominsa, I shall see to it that she knows to expect you. With that, I shall take my leave. I pray that the biography is a success. Everyone has been more helpful than I dared to hope. It seems Louisoix had quite an influence on others. That interview gave us some valuable insights into his character, and I'm eager to see what we learn in the next. Come, let's head to Limsa Laminsa. Man, I thought that this was going to be a short quest. I'm actually enjoying this, especially the little history lesson. What's especially nice is that we haven't had a quest like this for a special or seasonal event for a long time. In the old days, like, we used to have like these much longer quests where we had to visit each one of the city-states. Well, that was a fast teleport. And yeah, it would take like an hour to get each one of those done or something like that. Here, like these days, however, it's like a short quest where we don't even need to leave the city-state. So I'm really glad that they are at least getting back in touch with those roots, at least for this particular event. So heading up to Maelstrom Command. Ugh, man, that teleport was so fast, but now we're kind of paying for it with like the Aetheryte shard. There we go. Oh, I almost walked right by him. And there it is, Maelstrom Command. Shall we then? Captain Faye, ever a sight for sore eyes, and you must be Nanaji. Rashati Riki at your service. I understand you wish to hear about the operation to destroy the lunar transmitter. I have no idea if I said her name right. Indeed, I'm penning a biography of the Archon Louisoix, you see, for which I'm interviewing people who had dealings with him. I truly appreciate your time. You're very welcome. I would be glad to assist even if it wasn't a request from Lieutenant Fluke. Now then, to continue where he left off, it was shortly after the Eorzean Alliance was formed. Our scouts returned with word that the 7th Legion had activated the lunar transmitter in their fortress in Mordona. Now, known as Castrum Century, the fortress was originally called Castrum Novum, before the 14th restored and renamed it. It was in order to break through its defenses and destroy the transmitter that our three nations joined hands, and we were determined to succeed. The strategy that Louisoix proposed was elegant in its simplicity. While our main force drew the Garleans' attention with an all-out siege, an elite band of adventurers would infiltrate the castrum and make for our objective. We had entrusted adventurers with ridding us of the primals. Now we entrusted them with the very fate of Eorzea. I still remember the operation as if it were yesterday. Though we met with fierce resistance, we fought more fiercely still. No matter the cost, we had to ensure that the adventurers had a chance to strike at the transmitter. And when that messenger arrived bearing word that they had succeeded, oh, it still makes my heart sore to recall that moment of triumph. That day we learned that by standing together, the people of Eorzea could oppose even the might of the Empire. It is no exaggeration to say that the victory paved the way for Eorzea's future. Without it, there would not have been an Operation Archon. Alas, it wasn't all glad tidings, for though we destroyed the transmitter, Nael van Darnus appeared and claimed that he no longer needed the device to bring down Dalamud, that he himself had the power to do so. So long as Van Darnus lived, the threat of destruction remained, and so branding him an enemy to all life in Eorzea, the nations of the Alliance undertook a desperate manhunt. At length they located him in Coerthus and sent their greatest warriors to hunt him down. Leading that formidable band was the adventurer whom they called the Warrior of Light, and though no records remain of the fierce encounter, one thing is certain. At battle's conclusion, Nael van Darnus was brought low. As you know, however, our woes did not end with the White Raven, for Louisoix and his disciples determined that Dalamud would continue to fall. In a last-ditch bid to prevent the realm's annihilation, the Circle of Knowing issued a request to the Eorzean Alliance to secure the Cartano Flats, where the Red Moon was expected to crash. It was no simple task, for the entirety of the 7th Legion had amassed in Cartano, but it was necessary in order to perform a ritual to stop Dalamud, a ritual that invoked the power of the 12. So it was that the Battle of Cartano was joined, and I dare say you know how the tale continues. To everyone's shock, the Elder Primal Bahamut emerged from Dalamud and proceeded to unleash his fury upon the realm. Aye, and though all bore witness as Louisoix initiated the ritual, none remember what came to pass afterwards, neither what happened to Bahamut, nor why the realm was reborn. Oh boy, we know that. We know the reason. The haze had afflicted memories of the calamity, but people remember events prior to that moment, yes? If so, do you know if anyone was near Louisoix during the battle? Someone who may have spoken with him? If someone was near him, I'm afraid I do not know. He was atop a rise for the ritual when I was a good distance away on the front lines. My apologies. No, please don't apologize. You shared a wealth of information, and I couldn't ask for more. Well, if you're satisfied, then so am I. With that, I shall return to my duties. I look forward to reading the biography when it's finished. I mean, I don't think we're going to tell him ourselves what happened, but still. Now I have a grasp on events leading up to the calamity, and yet... Oh, forgive me, I was deep in thought. In no small part due to your help, I managed to learn a great deal, but there is still more that I wish to know. Might I trouble you to accompany me a little longer? If you're willing, please just let me know. Oh, okay. Preserving the future. Oh, we get the end of the era's Framers kit. You'll continue to accompany me then? Wonderful. Come, let's head to the Drowning Wench to discuss our next move. Our research proceeds apace so far. We've even learned things not found in literature. But tell me, based on what you've heard from our interviewees, what is your opinion on Louisoix? He had a difficult task. Oh, he did have a difficult task. But, I mean, none of this would have happened without him, so he was an exceptional leader. I agree. He possessed great leadership. If not, he couldn't have established the framework to realize his plans, no matter how brilliant they may have been. What struck me was how grateful the interviewees were to Louisoix for bringing their nations together in cooperation. It was nothing short of necessity for our survival. Yet, in knowing this, I can't help but wonder. In his capacity as a tactician, it seems to me he had done more than enough by devising a plan and facilitating its execution. He went far beyond that, risking life and limb on the front lines for a land not his own. Perhaps he needed to be there for the ritual, perhaps he felt a sense of duty. Even so, as noble as it is to desire to help others, what good is it if you end up sacrificing yourself? What was it that compelled Louisoix to go to Cartano, and what went through his mind as the battle unfolded? In order to do his biography justice, I feel I need to know these things. If Louisoix had people near him at the time, perhaps he shared words with them in his final moments, words that could provide some insights, but where to begin searching for such individuals, assuming they exist? Sorry, friends, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. Just so happens I know a bloke that served among Louisoix's guard at Cartano. Well, that's convenient. Truly? You know someone who was with him? Aye, and as far as I'm aware, he wasn't keeping the fact a secret. Just for good measure, though. Why do you want to speak with them? Louisoix's biography, eh? In that case, I reckon the bloke would be willing to cooperate. Orn Gulinchump's his name, and he was a lieutenant of the Maelstrom. After the calamity, he turned to adventuring so as to be a greater help to the common folk. A Maelstrom officer turned adventurer. You'd be most keen to speak with him. Where might he be found? When Orn dropped in the other day, he said that he had business at the Morbay dry docks. If you're lucky, he might be still there. Understood. We're in your debt. We can't let this chance pass us by, Claire. Let's take ourselves to the dry docks at once. Good old Batteron. Sticking his nose in places where it doesn't belong, but has a wealth of information to help us out. Or at least he knows someone who can help us out. That's really how you get anywhere these days. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. Still, I didn't think that Louisoix had a guard. Well, now that I think about it, it's probably a given that he would have had some kind of guard around him on the way to Cartano. Right, where could Orn be? In hindsight, we should have asked what he looks like. His name would suggest he's a Midlander, but... Well, nothing for it but to make inquiries. Let's split up for the task and meet again here. I'm sorry, but I've only just started helping out here. I'm still learning our customers' names. I couldn't say if it's the person you're after, but a man did come by earlier who appeared to be an adventurer. He bought a Nimia lily that we are currently trialing. Ah. Nimia lily. It's like the trademark flower for funerals here, I remember. Orn, as it happens, I spoke with him just earlier. He said that he wanted to buy flowers, so I directed him to a vendor. Not sure where he is of now, though. Oh, that was helpful. And... oh, there we go. Looking for an Orn Gulinchump, you say? Don't know anyone by that name, I'm afraid. Did walk by an unfamiliar fellow just now, though, over by the mark of the spinner. He had a flower in his hand, so he caught my eye. Okay. So at least we have an idea of where the guy is. Can't wait to meet him. There you are, Claire. Were you able to learn anything? So the man who could be Orn brought a Nimia lily, then went to the mark of the spinner. If we hurry there, we might be able to find him. Let's go! So he's over here. Guess we missed the guy. Ah. Wait, how did we beat him here? I thought he was already here. Begging your pardon, sir, but are you Lieutenant Orn Gulinchump? I haven't been a lieutenant for years, but aye, that's me. What can I do for you? I realize this is sudden, but... So you're writing Louisoix's biography and want to hear my account as someone who was near on hand at Cardinal. Why do you keep looking at me like that? There must be a reason that you're here too, the warrior of light who led us to victory in Operation Archon. Very well, I will tell you my tale. Now then, where to begin? As you know, the battle was fought over the land where Dalamud was expected to fall. In the beginning, neither side was able to gain the upper hand, but when the Imperials deployed their Magitech armor, our ranks were thrown into disarray. Those charged with protecting Louisoix, like me, could only watch the carnage from afar, and though our forces managed to hold out thanks to the adventurer contingent, we sustained grievous casualties. But the real tragedy was what followed. As Dalamud hurled towards us, it began shedding fragments of itself before finally bursting open to unleash the primal Bahamut. As all below looked on in shock, the battle completely forgotten, Bahamut took wing and spread fire all over the land. Men in Magitech armor alike were set ablaze and sent flying like so many insects. I only realized that I had stopped breathing when a commanding voice broke my trance. "You've done enough," Louisoix told us. "Now fly, fly and save yourselves." But like my fellow guards, I wanted to remain. I couldn't charge into battle beside my comrades. At the very least, I would do my duty here and protect Louisoix to the last. But upon seeing us standing there, not making to move, Louisoix smiled and spoke thus. "If you would give your lives to protect something, then protect my hopes. Every soul who lives to determine their own fate is a source of hope, bright and brilliant. So live, I bid you, and be among those who bear the light for others to follow." Those words awakened us to a greater purpose. If there was hope in my living, then I would live as Louisoix bid. No matter what, I would survive, and so, together with my fellows, I began making my retreat. Alas, we hadn't gotten far when an explosion erupted and sent us sprawling. I struggled to my feet just in time to see the enormous, menacing silhouette of Bahamut looming over Louisoix. In the next instant, he was enveloped in light, and that was the last I remember of him. They had to use that line. That was like Vanna's line. How did they do that? Louisoix's final moment. Amid that light, he looked to be smiling. What he was thinking in that moment I couldn't say, but one thing is certain. We all of us are alive thanks to him. Following the calamity, it was reported that Louisoix had defeated Bahamut and set about the land's miraculous regeneration. Do you believe this to be the truth? Every soul who lives to determine their own fate is a source of hope. What we've learned has reaffirmed my belief, Claire. The belief that Louisoix was not an all-powerful savior one reads about in tales, but merely an ordinary man. But that man never forsook Eorzea. No, he stood for this realm to the last, he and countless other brave souls, and saved it from becoming a scorched waste. Against unimaginable adversary he fought, and at the cost of his life paved the way to a brighter future for us all. The least I can do in return is tell his story, spread his message that where there is life, there is hope. Thanks to your account, I believe I found an angle for the biography. I'm truly grateful. Would you care to offer a prayer as well? A prayer that the light of hope which Louisoix preserved shall ever burn bright. The calamity left deep scars across the realm. There was no place that did not want for help to rebuild. After being saved by our twin-adder allies, I decided to become an adventurer, the better to honor Louisoix's legacy and lend aid to those in need. During my travels, I often hear your tales, and I'm glad I could share mine own with you. Aww. Allow me to thank you again for recounting your experiences to us. Nay, 'tis I who owes you thanks for giving me the chance to share Louisoix's words. All these years I had avoided speaking of the moment of his passing out of respect, but it would not do to take the tale to my grave. Through the biography, it is my hope that his spirit will live on in all of us. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I shall resume my pilgrimage to the marks. Wherever your travels take you, I shall be praying for your safety. Nimia lilies, the symbol of safe passage. As Louisoix stood there in Carteneau, I wonder if he likewise praised for someone's safety. Oh, I'm sure he did. At any rate, these interviews have yielded everything I have hoped for and more. Come, let's return to Udal. I'll have your reward for you at Udal at the Hall of Flames. Okay, I have a feeling that we're going to be wrapping up very soon. This was a charming little quest, wasn't it? At least I think it was. So here we are, back where we started. Those two Lalafels have been there for a couple days, I think, just standing there sweeping. There you are. I ended up troubling you longer than I intended, but it was a truly fruitful series of interviews. How fortunate that we could hear from those who lived that faithful time. While I still have many questions, the biography is beginning to take shape in my mind. I also feel as though I've attained a measure of closure. Louisoix fought simply as one of us, and he had made the ultimate sacrifice that hope might endure. This I've come to realize and appreciate thanks to everyone's heart-filled testimonies. Now then, last but not least, I'd like to ask you for your thoughts on something. According to Orn, Louisoix smiled in his final moments. As he was enveloped in light, what do you imagine he held in his mind? Oh, wow, even we don't know that one. I guess the image of mankind thriving in the future. I see. I appreciate your thoughts. As I pin the biography, I'll be certain to remember your words. Well, sad though it is, it's time for us to part ways. I'll set to work on a draft, and I won't rest until the biography goes to print. Thank you for all your help, my friend. I couldn't have come this far without you. Oh, there we go. That was so nice. It really was. The man, the myth, the legend. Okay, here's the framer kit. Okay, I gotta see this. Whoa, I've been neglecting my portraits recently, haven't I? I should fix that. Anyway, let's see what they look like. Man, how do you know, like, if it's new or not? It's gotta be close to the bottom, I'm guessing. Ooh, end of the era. Well, that's not bad. And end of the era. Oh, it's the same look that it's the position and the lighting of Louisoix, like right there. Like, oh, I get it. And is there an accent to it? I don't think so. No, it doesn't look like it. So that's okay though. I think this looks cool. Really does look really cool. I think I'll keep this one. Probably gonna change up all the others too. I'm getting kind of bored with those, so yeah, I'm just double checking. I don't know. I mean, the pixie rainbows might look cool with it too. Nope, we'll leave it like this. Let's not overcomplicate things. So I guess that's gonna be it for now. Oh man, that was such a nice quest, and I really love that they went ahead and like look back on 1.0, even though we really don't talk about 1.0 that much anymore. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. But anyway, everyone, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of the Rising events. So please take care, and let's look forward to another decade of Final Fantasy XIV.